News tonight. Agents from various political parties begin to be sworn in, with the National Electoral Commission extending the deadline until 23rd October. Presidential candidates continue with the final round of campaigns in various parts of the country. And in sports, Police Tanzania Football Club says it is ready to face Yanga Sports Club tomorrow at the Uhuru Stadium in Dar es Salaam. Good evening, this is Capital News at 9:30. My name is Nasma Mwambe. Let's get started with the national news. The exercise to swear in the election agents from various political parties has begun, with the process going well in some wards in Dar es Salaam, with some major challenges being delays in some agents being sworn in on claims that they have not completed some important documents that will meet the requirements of the general election laws.
So far there are no complaints. This is why I'm saying that everything is well. If there was anything different, our leaders would have informed us. Everything has gone well. I think in a short while people will be called in. The Commission has made this decision after taking into consideration the fact that some areas have accessibility challenges, which makes it hard for electoral supervisors to reach some of the agents so they can be sworn in. We urge political parties to follow right procedures when they take their agents.
The presidential candidate for the union government from UPDP, Twalib Ibrahim Kadege, has pledged to change the healthcare system by ensuring every citizen gets free health services, as the government will foot the bills if he is elected. When addressing a rally at Mkuyuni Sokoni in Mwanza.
Atakayepata hospitali kuanzia ya zahanati hadi rufaa hatalipa hata senti moja.
No citizen will pay towards medical care because he has already paid tax. Any government in the world's first responsibility is to make sure its people are healthy.
Na si nzuri. Hospitali unaambiwa kwanza pale wakati umeshalipa kodi.
The presidential candidate from ACT Wazalendo Party, Maalim Seif Sharif Hamad, who had been given a 5-day campaign ban by the Zanzibar Electoral Commission, ZEC, has resumed his campaign by addressing residents of Mjini District. Candidate for the United Republic of Tanzania under Chama cha Mapinduzi CCM party, Dr. John Magufuli, has urged residents of Kilimanjaro region to vote for CCM in the coming general election so as his government can complete the task of restoring new industries and reviving those that has closed down.
Kwamba magari yetu ya Pwani hivi karibuni imejengewa eneo la abiria.
We want this port to be modern for goods, so it can't be more productive for ships coming from abroad. I've heard the people bring in goods from Dar es Salaam and Mombasa, which makes it more expensive because it must be offloaded first before it comes here. We must therefore make sure we have a port for big ships so they can dock in Pemba in order to reduce the cost.
I beg your pardon. The presidential candidate from ACT Wazalendo Party, Maalim Seif Sharif Hamad, who had been given a 5-day ban from campaign ban by the Zanzibar Electoral Commission, ZEC, has resumed his campaigns by addressing residents of Mjini District.
Ndugu zangu, ni kwamba hatuna chanzo chetu wenyewe cha umeme.
The problem with electricity is because we don't supply our own. We rely on TANESCO electricity coming from mainland. If there is a problem in Dar es Salaam, then Unguja will have no electricity. Our government, which is coming, will do its best to have our own electricity sources here in Zanzibar.
The presidential candidate for the United Republic of Tanzania under Chama cha Mapinduzi CCM party, Dr. John Magufuli, has urged residents of Kilimanjaro region to vote for CCM in the coming general election so that his government can complete the task of restoring the region's industrial economy by building new industry and reviving those that have closed down.
Bila viwanda hutapata ajira. Na ndio maana tunataka tuwe na viwanda hapa.
Without industries, there is no employment. This is why we want to have factories here, so the raw materials we produce will be processed here instead of exporting everything we produce. If you do so, it means that jobs will be taken outside too. We want a new Moshi, Kilimanjaro and Tanzania.
Chama cha Demokrasia na Maendeleo Chadema presidential candidate for the United Republic of Tanzania, Tundu Lissu, has said there is no need for agents of parties taking part in the 28th general election to travel all the way to the council headquarters to be sworn in, when the election laws state that all agents can be sworn in by the election supervisors or deputy supervisors.
Sasa nchi nzima hii, nchi yetu nzima hii,
the people in charge have instructed for agents to take an oath, some with the supervisor and others at the divisional level. If you ask all agents to take an oath at the officer in charge, it is such an inconvenience for those coming from far.
The Inspector General of Police, Simon Siro, has said that the force has conducted a search operation for individuals who have been implicated in criminal incident on the island of Pemba, as well as other places, and revealed that there are some criminals who have escaped to neighboring countries.
Nimekuja kuangalia kipenyo ambacho ukitoka unakwenda maeneo ya Mombasa.
You can see some of the vessels have been left here by lawbreakers, whom after committing a crime they run to Mombasa. What is important is to be a good citizen, because at the end of the day your case will be still open even if you run away.
As the country heads towards the general election next week, Zanzibar Electoral Commission ZEC has posted names of voters at polling stations as it is required by the election procedures.
Zoezi hili lilokuwepo hapa ni kwa ajili ya kuja kujiona kila mpiga kura aliyejiandikisha katika daftari la kudumu la wapiga kura.
This exercise is for every voter who is registered to see that his name is on the list. The names showing are voters allowed to vote in the voting center.
Hili daftari lilokuwepo hapa ndo wale wote ambao wanapaswa kuja kupiga kura katika kituo cha kupiga kura.
And that is the end of the national news. International news comes next after the break. In international news, the Building Bridges Initiatives BBI report has finally been handed over to President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya and ODM leader Raila Odinga. The report, which was handed over by the steering committee led by Senator Yusuf Haji at Kiisi State Lodge, will be officially in Nairobi next Monday.
I want to repeat again, and I said it yesterday. This document does not belong first and foremost to me and Raila. It doesn't. It belongs to you. It belongs to you. This document is not about this individual's presidency and that individual's prime ministership, that individual's this. No. This is about all of us. What we are looking for is a document for posterity. And like I told you yesterday, friends, I may be the fourth, but I'm not the last.
We are going to talk to the people of Kenya. The Kenyans must know the truth. That sisi si watu wazimu. Mimi na ndugu yangu tuliamua tutaenda njia hii kwa sababu tunajua hii ndio njia ya kukomboa Kenya. There's no other way.
The High Court in Kampala, Uganda, has dismissed a case challenging the change of leadership of the National Unity Platform Party and rejected an attempt to deter Kiandondo East MP Robert Kyagulanyi, popularly known as Bobby Wine, from using the party to run for president. This comes after Difas Basile and Hassani Twala petitioned that the change of name from National Unity Reconciliation and Development Party, NURP, to National Unity Platform Party was illegal.
That this was a bogus.
We're happy that the court has agreed with us. You can see this case was meant to slow us down.
In our special report, Vanessa Victor talks to William Grokhoft, correspondent with our Deutsche Welle partner in Berlin, on how Germany is addressing the corona pandemic.
Cases are rising and restrictions are growing, and with that, so is the criticism. While support for the German government and its actions to confront the pandemic remain high among the public, there has been a growing call for a more democratic approach to handling the crisis. With more, we're joined now by William Grokhoft, a correspondent with our Deutsche Welle partner in Berlin. So, William, what is the latest where you are?
Well, as we've been reporting for weeks now, it's really more of the same. Cases keep rising. In the last 24 hours, we've seen almost 7,600 new cases around Germany. That's an increase of about 730 in just the last day. Now, fortunately, the death rate is staying about stable and relatively low. But the cases are going up, and that's very concerning to the medical system, to politicians, to public officials, health officials. And we're seeing at least a third of the country in a red zone. That means a third of the country's regions and municipalities are seeing infection rates of 50 per 100,000 over the last 7 days. As you might know, that is the magic number for when things swing into action, when restrictions are put into place, when there needs to be more discussion about, making restrictions on public life, freedom of movement, to try to contain the virus. We're even seeing the first local lockdown. This is in a small, idyllic, alpine area in Bavaria. So really, this virus is affecting everyone from, densely populated, lower income areas in a city like Berlin to far wealthier, more sparsely populated areas like down in Bavaria and, of course, out in western and southern Germany, too. Really, just everywhere is this virus. And, public officials are trying to figure out, scratching their heads, how best to contain it.
So what has the response been so far to the new restrictions and measures?
To the large extent, people are following these rules, increased mask use, maintaining distance. People understand the science, and they understand the need to protect themselves and the need to protect other people. And most people are following the rules that are being put forth by Angela Merkel, by the leaders of the various states. But there is a lot of criticism, not in the rules themselves, but how these rules are being enacted. That really, up until now, everything is being decided between Angela Merkel and the 16 state leaders, that is, the 16 states within Germany. And there's a question of, Germany is a parliamentary democracy, so where is Parliament? Parliament, the Bundestag, has been very, very quiet for months and has kind of handed its authority over to the executive being Angela Merkel, the Chancellery, and her cabinet. Back in the springtime, the Parliament voted to enact what's known as the Infektionsschutzgesetz, basically a law that gives extra powers to the executive to protect people in a time of a public health crisis, and what we're seeing now, a pandemic. And that was all well and good, but months later, we're past the initial crisis, and people are wondering, when is Parliament going to step in to take back some of that power, to make sure that it's not just one person or a small group of people making decisions, but that Parliament, which represents the people, which are directly voted by people all around Germany, has a say in really strong restrictions on freedom of movement, which in a democracy is really unheard of. And that is the criticism right now, that not that these rules are necessary or unnecessary, but how the rules are being put into place.
Now, how are these critics suggesting to change the way Germany is handling the crisis?
I mean, really, the parliament, both at the federal level, that being the Bundestag, and legislatures at state and even local levels, get more actively involved, and not just majority parties that are in government, but also opposition parties that are supposed to come up with alternatives and to criticize criticize the government, to criticize the parties in power. And we haven't really been seeing that. Just this week, Wolfgang Schäuble, the president of the Bundestag, he's part of Angela Merkel's ruling CDU party, but he represents the entire parliament. He's a well-respected individual across all parties. He wrote a letter to all of the parties in parliament and said, it's time for us to take back some of that power. It's time for us to debate more, to argue more, to provide more oversight over what Angela Merkel and her cabinet and the state leaders are doing. It's time for perhaps sunset clauses, that being, when we put in restrictions, make sure that there's a deadline, that they won't just be open-ended and last forever, but that there will be times that these restrictions come to an end or will be brought back up for review again. And basically, there's just an increasingly held view to exactly what Schäuble said. You have one of the co-leaders of the SPD, the Social Democrats, that's also part of the government, Angela Merkel's governing coalition, saying, yes, we need more oversight, more inclusion of Parliament. So we can expect to see in the next few weeks exactly that. A little bit more pushback in Parliament saying, okay, you've had your chance, the executive, Merkel, the state leaders, now it's our turn to look at this and make sure that there's democratic legitimacy to the rules that you're putting in place.
Well, thank you very much, William, for that update. I'm looking forward to seeing how things play out and progress in our next cross.
And that is the end of international news. Business news comes next after the break.
Watch Business Edition as we talk to business leaders and experts in sectors that are transforming Tanzania's economy.
We believe that the driver is the customer.
To change the mindset of traditional HR to the digitalization.
Make sure that everybody can get some access to financial services.
And once we understand the vision of our leaders, we then need to be behind them and help them in achieving that vision.
Business have involved mercantile operations, trade guilds, or shared agricultural production, infrastructure, construction, financial sectors, tourism, and mining. Business Edition on Friday at 8:15 p.m.
And in business news, with preparation from the cashew nut buying auction underway in Tunduru District, Ruvuma region, farmers have responded by taking good quality cashew nuts to warehouses ready for the auction.
Our cashew nut is still grade 1. When you look at the nut count, we are on 195 average and 7.7 on moisture content. We've collected 835 tons of cashew nut by this afternoon, so we hope to have collected at least 1,200 tons by 6 p.m.
Mobile phone company Tigo has launched itel T20 smartphone in the market with an internet offer to 30 GB to last throughout the year.
Hii ni mikakati ambayo inatuwezesha pia kuweza kuwa na wateja wetu karibu.
This enables us to bring our customers closer, especially when we make it possible for them to enter the digital world, but also in increasing the number of people using smartphones. The smartphone you see before you is 4G.
Women entrepreneurs in Arusha have found innovative ways of doing business after the coronavirus resulted in some neighboring countries closing their borders, with many of them purchasing products online and using materials to produce various goods.
We import flowers and sell them locally. Some come from outside the country, but others are sourced inside. We must produce our own flowers so we can go further.
And that is the end of business news. Sports comes next.
Away first time, good start from Bolt. Bolt leading a moment and going away. Gay trying to go with him, and he's going to be dragged through to second place, but he's going to win it by 2 meters. Away first time, good start from Bolt. Bolt leading a moment and going away. Gay trying to go with him, and he's going to be dragged through to second place, but he's going to win it by 2 meters. Opposition, Joaquinho, he did lose to Lynn.
And in sports, Police Tanzania Football Club is relying on its run of avoiding defeat against Yanga when the two teams face off tomorrow in a Premier League game at Uhuru Stadium in Dar es Salaam.
We depend on our players and believe in them. They are in good spirit, patiently waiting for the game. The players are looking forward to the game. We expect to repeat what we did in the last game, or even perform better.
Kabaddi coaches from India are expected to start arriving from 3rd to 5th of November for the final selection of the national team, which will participate in the African Championship in December this year, to be hosted by Tanzania.
Coaches from India will start arriving anytime from now. We organized the sorting for Pwani to start today, as in Dar es Salaam, Pwani, Morogoro and neighboring areas. But due to reasons beyond our reach, we have postponed the sort to 24th, which will be on Saturday.
Manchester United has suffered a €118 million loss in revenues, down to €509 million to €627 million for the financial year ending in June 2019, with the impact of the coronavirus pandemic a major factor. Here's the story.
Released today also showed that United have paid a £23 million dividend again, which mostly goes to the Glazer family that owns the club. The loss is an 18.8% downturn for the 12 months, with the last financial quarter showing a 38% reduction, £131.4 million to £81.5 million. The club estimates that £70 million of revenue lost across the year can be attributed to the pandemic.
Mesut Ozil has hit out at a perceived lack of loyalty from Arsenal in a strongly worded statement after he was not included in the 25-man Premier League squad. Here's more.
An escalation in hostilities during the standoff between Ozil and his club, for whom he has not appeared since March. Ozil is Arsenal's highest paid player, but has been frozen out of Mikel Arteta's side, and the writing was on the wall for his hopes of featuring over the coming months when he was omitted from the Europa League list. He has met the same fate where domestic football is concerned and reacted with dismay in a message posted on social media. Ozil's last appearance was in the win over West Ham on 7th of March, Arsenal's final match before the COVID-19 shutdown.
And that sports item ends our news bulletin. Thank you for watching and good night.
Diamonds are...
In Tanzania, we have an amazing array of places we call home. But when it comes to interior designing, decorations, and gardening, we don't make the most of the spaces. On The Decor, you learn about designs, styles, functions, elegance, and traditions by being inspired from the best in the field to transform your spaces and create more memories. On Saturday at 7:30 p.m.
There are very many international organizations in the country.
Governments all around the world must collect taxes.
It could be any country in the world, and we only get to hear what they do in Tanzania.
Agriculture, in my view, is one of the main perspectives for
our embassies and high commission operate in Tanzania and how Tanzania can benefit from the presence of this organization, of these embassies in the country. And you can only catch it on the Monday Agenda, which is aired every Monday 8:45 to 9:30 here on Capital Television. Stay tuned.
You can watch Capital News live on our social media accounts, YouTube Capital TV.